Hey folks, welcome back for game 2 with the Turbo Lock deck. Here we are not on the play again, we're actually going last, which is pretty unfortunate. It always stinks to go last, but that's fine. We're a blazing fast combo deck, so I think we can handle going last. And here the commanders we have are Valduk, Joda, which people have been playing Joda like crazy lately. It's a new commander, so people want to test it out. And also, he can do pretty powerful things. You can cast giant spells at the cost of only one of each color. So I'm excited to see how this one goes. And then we have Riku of the Two Reflections, which I've seen that deck quite a bit. And it ranges from very casual to very competitive, depending on who's playing it. And this starter hand is not the best ever, but I can use Fauna Shaman to find Academy Rector, and I have 2 sacrifice outlets in my hand. All I need is a couple of lands, and then I can proceed to do my thing. Aura Thief here is great if you have the other piece, but not only do I not have the other piece, but I'm also quite a few lands away from casting it. So, but I still think this is a keepable hand, so I snap it off. Valduk plays a land, taps it, and passes the turn. Joda plays a Burgeoning, which is a very strong turn 1 play, especially if you have a couple lands in your hand. A couple of extra lands. So, Riku over here plays a land, allowing him to trigger Burgeoning, which you basically have to. On turn 1, they play a Burgeoning. What are you going to do, not play your land? He plays Unbridled Growth and sacrifices it immediately to draw a card. I drew a Temple Garden off the top, and I play it tapped and pass the turn. Valduk here plays a Fire Diamond to go ahead and ramp up some of that mana. And here on turn 2, the Joda player untaps with 4 lands. That's pretty good. He plays the Birds, and then he taps his lands thinking about doing something, and then ultimately decides just to pass the turn. Riku plays Life Gain tap land, taps his other land, and passes. I think. Alright, and on my turn, I draw Noble Hierarch, which gives me a decision tree of whether or not I want to get Ramp in play, or I want to get Fauna Shaman in play to go ahead and set up. Ultimately, I decide that it is probably best to just go ahead and play Fauna Shaman. Valduk player plays his commander. And then also plays a Basilisk Collar. So he works pretty well with equipment. So go ahead and get everything set up. The Joda player now plays Joda, setting up for next turn. Kind of excited to see what he plays. And then Riku plays a Yavimaya Elder to get some lands and extra cards. This is the green Ancestral Recall, as it's been known to be called from time to time. So he's out of lands for Burgeoning, which is good. And here I decide, of course, I'm just going to go ahead and get the mana down, because I'm going to need it for my next turn anyway. I have exactly enough lands to pitch a creature, probably Aura Thief here, because I don't have Enchanted Evening, to get Academy Rector, play Academy Rector, floating a blue by filtering, and then play Sidici's Faithful. So all I need is a good top deck. I can get an Omniscience in play, but I do not have the cards required to win immediately. So hoping I get lucky on this next draw. The Valduk player plays a Strip Mine, equips his Basilisk Collar, plays a Brass Squire, which seems very good in his deck. It allows him to just flash over equipment to whoever. So he makes an Elemental with his commander, and he attacks both at the Joda player. He perceives him to be the largest threat, which makes sense. I haven't done anything too scary yet, and who knows what he can do next turn. So goes ahead and attacks him. And the Joda player plays a Bomb. Plays Storm Herd. Create X 1/1 white Pegasus creature tokens with flying, where X is your life total. So he pumps out 33 1/1 flyers, which we could all be dead as soon as next turn if he has something like a Craterhoof Behemoth or a pump effect, like even an Overrun would do it from this position. So pretty scary over there. Decides to tap out after that. Riku player sacrifices his Yavimaya Elder to go ahead and get 3 cards. and I pitch Aura Thief to get, you guessed it, Academy Rector. Static Orb will not win me the game. And there's no reason that I can see to play Academy Rector, play Sidici's Faithful, get Omniscience, and then just exhaust the rest of these resources and play them. It's like Static Orb is okay versus the board right now because everybody's tapped out. But this guy will almost certainly attack me if I do that. And he will only be able to untap 2 after that. But the damage will have been done. I will have been dealt a ton of damage. And if these guys all want to gang up on me, I'll probably be dead. And they probably should gang up on me if I do that. So I decided not to do that. And instead, I play... What is happening here? Or I was thinking about that play, I think. I was thinking about getting Omniscience to play, and I ultimately just decided to play Fanatical Devotion and pass the turn. This also means that I can, since I have another Sacrifice out in play, and I can cast Academy Rector next turn, I can pitch this Sidici's Faithful now to get something else if I feel like I need to. The Valduk player plays another equipment. Non-basic land walk, pretty good versus this board here. Everybody's got a non-basic in play. And he attaches it to his commander. And strip mines Joda. This is a small play. I guess he really wanted to keep him down. But this will matter here in the future. Yeah, I am very happy that he decided to strip mine this player. And you will see why. And he decides to go on an all-out aggressive attack at these. And he does not block with any of his Pegasi. Very interesting that he decided to do that. Is it Pegasi? I don't know. Probably. So, the Joda player here makes mana of every color, and he plays Zakama. This card very much wrecks my day, and I'm super happy that I did not play Omniscience last turn, because this guy would have been able to shoot it. This dinosaur here would have just taken out my Omniscience, and that would have been the end of my game, basically. So, very happy that I decided not to jam an Omniscience with no way to win. And this also creates complications here. I cannot use Fanatical Devotion to get Omniscience because, like I said in the deck tag, this will leave a trigger on the stack afterwards, the effect of regeneration. And during that moment, and this guy untaps his lands when he comes into play, he can shoot down my Omniscience before I ever get a chance to do anything. So that's not good. So now that card is in play, I must formulate some kind of game plan in order to beat it. Or get it out of the way or kill it or something. And as you saw in the deck tag, I don't have very many ways of killing creatures, so that's pretty problematic for me. Joda here decides to just go on an all-out rampage and attack the Valduk player here, which makes sense because he was attacking him the whole time. He's already at 23, but they're just beating each other down. They each perceive each other, I guess, to be the biggest threat, or perhaps he, doesn't even care who the biggest threat is. He's like, I'm just going to take out whoever's been taking me out, because I don't think what Valduk's doing over here is that scary. Obviously, good value engine. He's got all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, he's creating a bunch of 3/3s every turn. But all in all, I mean, I guess he got him down to 23, but he's not killing anybody anytime soon, I don't think. Riku player plays Farhaven Elf. Go ahead and get some extra mana in play. And I'm glad I didn't go ahead and pitch the Sidici's Faithful, because now I need it. Like I said, I can't use this to sacrifice to get Academy Rector in play, or to kill Academy Rector, because of the trigger situation. But with Sidici's Faithful, you can sacrifice Academy Rector, and I can bounce a creature and then get Omniscience. So the plan is, if I still need a way to win. I need a way to draw, or I need a creature tutor or something else that will allow me to go ahead and win the game on the spot. And right now, this hand doesn't do it. And here I make a very risky gamble, but I feel like ultimately I made the correct choice here. So I do that thing with the filter shenanigans. Or no, I don't need to do that because I have blue from Noble Hierarch. So I play Academy Rector. Now I play Sidici's Faithful, sacrificing Academy Rector, and I bounce the Zakama. Then he taps lands, which is perfect for me, to shoot down one of these artifacts, the one with non-basic land walk. I guess he wants to preserve his life total, and he knows that he can make this commander pretty large probably, and with this equipment he won't be able to block it. So goes ahead and shoots that artifact, and I'm very happy that he does that, because my plan here is to, once Omniscience is in play, I'm going to play Static Orb and lock down all of these tokens and hopefully lock down some of his lands. And he has quite a few colored sources, but he has this right here, which produces, the colors that he needs to to activate, or not activate, but to use Joda's ability, I guess, to cast spells. But this taps for colorless, so he needs an additional land. He needs 6 lands total in order to activate this. And this will not contribute as one of his 5 land piles. So this is actually like really good for me, the way everything's working out. But it's the reason it's risky is because I'm gambling whether or not, I mean, he gets to untap 2 lands, and then over the next couple of turns, if I don't draw a way to win, and he's able to redeploy Zacama, then I am screwed. So I decide now is the best time. Everybody's tapped out-ish. I mean, he's pretty close to tapped out. And I shock in the breeding pool here, so I'll have more lands to untap. And then I pass. And now Valduk and Joda here decide to make an agreement, like, let's stop going after each other for a little while. Let's take this guy out first. Me, of course. And that totally makes sense at this point in time. I don't blame them at all. I would be doing the same thing. So he attacks me with 2 creatures. I block the token with Sidisi, with Sidisi's Faithful, because it's a 0-4 versus a 3-1. I figure that's a pretty safe block. Plus, I don't really need the Sidisi's Faithful, even if it did die. It did its job already. This player decides to not untap his horsies. He decides to untap his lands and attacks me with Joda, and I do not block. So I decide I'll just take the damage. I don't want to throw away my Sidisi for no reason. Plus, I want plenty of creatures in play if I find Razakath in order to have a couple of tutors. Riku player untaps a couple of lands and passes. I untap my mana dorks for blockers and additional mana. Go ahead and put a counter on this Aspertold. And I draw Savannah, which is really bad. Now he can untap this land, and if he draws another, he can untap the birds and this and redeploy his Zacama, and I don't want that to happen. So it's actually looking really, really bad for me right now. This player, although kind of like sort of helps me out, I guess, but plays Fiery Confluence, 1 damage to each creature, 2 damage to each opponent, and destroy target artifact, blowing up the static orb, which does not bother me. I really just wanted to keep everybody locked down. What will bother me is if this player can redeploy his threat and shoot my Omniscience. That's just the worst case scenario, and I do not want that to happen. So I sacrifice one of my 1 toughness creatures to regenerate the other here. That way I can save at least one of them, and none of my other creatures are affected by it. So I figure this is all fine. Then he creates a token, decides to attack me. So I decide I don't want to block the Elemental here because this already has 1 point of damage on it. So I decide I'll just block the Brass Squire, and then I'll take the 3. My life total is actually getting kind of low too. I'm at 25 now. But whenever he Fiery Confluence, he killed the birds, which means that he can no longer, with the lands in play, redeploy that threat. So that strip mine on the command tower was huge. He can't redeploy that threat. This guy probably actually wishes that he could, so he could shoot the Omniscience, but it just doesn't work out that way. And he needs to land off the top. And he did not get it, so he casts Vidalcan Orrery. And I'm sitting here thinking that's pretty sweet. I just need another top deck. That Savannah was bad. I decided not to play it because I'd rather conceal the information that I drew a brick. Riku's probably happy to untap with his lands now. And then he plays the first meaningful play of the game for him. Plays a Vorinclex, which is a very strong threat. Doubles his mana and makes it harder for us to deploy our threats. And I draw Imperial Seal, which means that I just need to not die, and I need him to brick on lands 1 more turn, and then I can definitely win the game next turn with a tutor and Omniscience. So here I decide to play Atraxa to help myself not die this turn cycle. I go ahead and proliferate the Aspertold, which is the only permanent in my deck that I can proliferate, as a matter of fact. This player's tapping tons of lands under the Vorinclex. I did the same thing, but I tapped my Noble so that I'm not as affected by it, and I don't need mana. You know, I have Omniscience, so Vorinclex is bothering me probably the least out of everyone. He plays Outpost Siege, and strangely enough, he names dragons. Normally, people will name cons with this because it's a form of card advantage, but he wants to start whittling down my board. So he chooses dragons, and he creates tokens that leave the battlefield. So the goal is to create tokens and then shoot down my creatures, I think. So he makes one, and he attacks with just the token. And here, I didn't think about this interaction. Honestly, it was probably just best for me to just take the damage. But I didn't see this play that he had here, which was attack with the elemental. What I was thinking was this: I block with this, and he can shoot it with the 1 damage left over whenever this leaves the battlefield if he wants to, or he can shoot my Noble Hierarch. So by blocking, I am giving him a choice of which creature to kill, but I didn't see the fact that he could kill both my creatures. He attaches the equipment, the Basilisk Collar, over here, killing my Sidicious Faithful, and then when it leaves, decides to shoot my Noble Hierarch as well. Which is definitely worse for me. Had I known that was going to be the play, I would not have blocked, but it was just something I overlooked. And then the Jodah player plays a tapped Jungle Shrine, which is just perfect. Like, this is my setup turn. I just got Imperial Seal to finally do something with this Omniscience, and I needed him to brick one more time, because if he shoots my Omniscience, then that's it for me. So, he plays a tap land and cannot use his Jodah to cast a giant spell. And what my biggest fear here was that Vorinclex and the Riku player was just going to win the game here. Look at how much mana he has. It's very possible that there is a combination of cards that he has in hand that just win the game immediately. And he plays Hornet Queen. Go ahead and get some Death Touch blockers in play. And plays Deadeye Navigator, which is really strong if the game continues. He'll always have Death Touch blockers, and as soon as he finds something like a Craterhoof Behemoth, he wins on the spot. He can even flicker the Craterhoof Behemoth with Deadeye Navigator to get, like, very large. So he goes ahead and he flickers the Hornet Queen with the floating mana. I'm not quite sure why he decided to do all of this now. It let me know that I was relatively safe to go off. I have fewer players with untapped mana to deal with. He kept his lands untapped, but that could be just to not be screwed over by the Vorinclex. But he didn't have to tap all of his lands. He could have just tapped some of them and left open the Flicker or a counter spell or something. But now I know that it's like Force of Will or Bust over here. He can't do anything. And this guy with his untapped lands may be able to do something, but he has to do something, because if he doesn't, then I win. This player chooses to attack the Valduk player because he's almost dead anyways, I guess. And he can't attack me reasonably because I'll block with the Atraxa, or I might not even block, but I probably wouldn't block actually, but he thinks I would. So here I get Razaketh, and I go ahead and get Grand Abolisher. So now I know I'm safe. As soon as Grand Abolisher sticks, I'm in the clear. So I get Runescarred Demon with the second creature. Now I get Phantasmal Image, copy Runescarred Demon, get the Revelark, sacrifice Phantasmal Image to get Mycosynth Lattice, sacrifice Revelark to get back Phantasmal Image, copying Runescarred, and this time I decide to do the Aura Thief combo. The board's pretty spicy here. I kind of want to have a Deadeye Navigator with a Runescarred Demon. That going on seems like it would be pretty cool. So just going to do that, even though I could win with the Hard Lock, and I might, I can potentially do both. So here I sacrifice Aura Thief, and I gain control of all permanents. This player basically concedes immediately as soon as that effect takes place. And I actually got to activate Outpost Siege here a little bit. Now I'm in the process of searching up the last piece of the Hard Lock so that I can own all of the permanents and lock everything out. And everyone concedes, which makes sense because they were more than dead. There's no way they were getting out of this. So that was game 2.